Welcome. This is the Jordan School District Board of Education meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. We are in the JATC South building, and we have currently 4 board members in the room with us. We have Nikki George joining online, and Mr. Robinson, Ms. Dean are on their way. We're going to start with our first agenda item, which is a review of the process for the school land trust and Teacher and Student Success Act plans and approvals. So, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. At this time, all of our schools have completed their 24-25 school year land trust and TSSA plans. We merged these two plans together so that the timelines are similar because they should complement each other, although they are separate and distinct plans. So each administrator of schools that oversee their respective schools have also approved those plans, and yesterday you should have received an email with all of the plans for TSSA and land trust contained in them. The way we've traditionally done it is that you will approve the TSSA and land trust plans for schools within your board area, and then you'll be assigned one additional area to review. So you'll receive a total of 4 emails that contain the folders for each of those plans. Okay. Also contained in that email was a link to school community council resources. This provides the state approved training and information reference material that you can look at if you have any questions on TSSA or land trust materials. You can certainly call my office as well. But we just have an assurance that we provide that to the board each year as part of the required training, and but again, if you have questions, you can call us as well, and we can walk you through anything. So I told you the folders were sent yesterday. In there as well, a helpful resource is the checklist for reviewing land trust plans. That we've worked on this over the years, and Tracy is the one that kind of put this together initially. It's just a helpful step-by-step guide as to what you should look for when approving land trust plans specifically. TSSA plans are very similar in their scope, and again, if you have questions on anything or what a school is proposing or plans looks like, don't hesitate to reach out. The deadline for this is we have originally given the board a couple of weeks to review these. Our next board meeting will be April 23rd, where we would typically put those on a consent agenda. What I want to offer as a potential idea is if the board is going to meet on, say, April 30th as part of negotiations and things like that, you could also incorporate a meeting in which you can go into as a board, you can go into the regular business meeting. You could approve land trust plans on April 30th as well, if you were willing to do that. That'd just give you an extra week of approval process. I just wanted to throw that out there as a potential idea, because I know the turnaround time is somewhat tight.
What are your thoughts on that? The April 30th meeting is still a tentative meeting. Get these turned around in 2 weeks.
I'll be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for the 23rd then.
Keep on the 23rd. Okay, very good. Thank you. I know I wanted to offer it as a potential one more week of grace or extra time period or whatever you needed to review them. But
When we go to approve them, though, and we'll wish we had the extra week.
and we can always push it to another date if we needed to. So, any questions on the process or what you've received or?
Where was you said there was some training materials in the checklist?
There's a
in an
link. It's
email?
called school. Yeah, in the memo that was dated It's dated April 9th, and it's subject to school land trust and TSSA approvals. There's a link that's hyperlinked school community council resources. Yes,
That one.
that's that
The
one.
link.
That's
Okay.
the one. Yeah, the memo looks like this and has a link at the top there where you could find the trainings and other resources that the state puts together. If there are no other questions, that's all I have for this. We appreciate all of the hard work that the schools have put into this to work with their school community councils, to work with their teachers and their faculties to put these together. It's not a small endeavor, and there are several deadlines and requirements that they need to meet. And I also want to give a shout out to my administrative assistant, Nadine, who compiles these and troubleshoots so many things with the principals and answers their questions so well.
And I must say, it sure beats the days when we had folders
Yeah.
and we had to pass them off to the next board member.
We were known, we could have had an Uber TSSA, where we would deliver them to board members' houses at sometimes, just so we can facilitate that. But yeah, this beats that for sure. And in that's a good reminder that in the approval, you'll open the Google Doc, and there's just a way to initial next to that's what we ultimately need and look for, is just the initial from the board member. And it's listed there. There's a step-by-step process on how to do that.
Okay, so we'll have those reviewed and approved by 2 weeks from now, April 23rd.
Thank you. Well,
Anybody has any questions, or if there's one that you read that isn't right, just get in contact with Dr. Anderson on that.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to jump ahead for just a minute on this agenda item because we have printed copies still coming. So hold off. We'll come back to Portrait of a Graduate, and let's start on the agenda item C, review of National School Board Association Conference 2024. We had 3 board members attend NSBA this year, along with Dr. Godfrey, and we had some great staff members that attended and presented at NSBA. I think this is the 3rd year in a row
Yeah, we've presenting.
been asked to present.
Yep.
And that is just, credit to our amazing team that does such a good job. They just keep getting invited back. So thank you. Who wants to start?
Wait, at me. All right, I just landed and trying to catch my breath. So
Just today?
yeah, just enough to shower, which is good. But anyways, it was pretty incredible conference, like they all are. I couldn't help but think that it was 6 years ago that we sat in San Antonio in the midst of the heroin suicide crisis. And that was a really moving event, at least for me personally. I think for other board members, when we came back and just started to face the challenges that we had with mental health and suicide prevention. It was what came out of that conference when we all said, and I think Bryce did that great piece on rats in the cellar and started to figure out what can we do. And 6 years later, now all of a sudden we're getting national recognition for leading the way in mental health and suicide prevention. And Sandy and her team did an incredible job. Dr. Godfrey, hands off to your leadership and, not just solving the issue. I don't know if you ever solved mental health, but not just solving it, but like coming up with ideas. That was a packed room. People stuck around after and talked a lot. The chatter in the halls, a couple people approached me after the fact, and it's just, and we didn't even share just a little bit of the piece of what we're doing, and we talked a lot about the wellness day, but we also talked about some other things, and we could have gone for hours. We really could have, and so I really appreciated that one. You never have enough time to get to all the sessions that you want to get to. I think that's one of the frustrating things. But it also gives you a good point of view to really realize how good you have it. Because sometimes you forget that, right? We're in here every day, we're talking. But I went to one on personalized learning because, I love that kind of thing. And, hey, we can personalize learning. Students learn differently today and everything. And I was super hyped. And then I went into it and it was everything we're already doing, mostly about creating pathways and tech opportunities and really what we do at JTech. And they did mention a few things that I just wanted to maybe throw at us is we reserve ours for juniors and seniors, and they offer theirs for sophomore and freshmen. I know that would mean that we need to expand it more. They also said a really key critical point that I thought that we should never decline a kid in our tech center. because that kid's all of a sudden got all excited about this pathway and everything, and then all of a sudden you just crush his dreams and say, sorry, cosmetology or mechanics or whatever they want to do is full. And we might be changing the trajectory of their whole life because our program's full. So one of the things they do is they figure out what kids want, and then they figure out the staff that they need to do to accomplish that. So we're a big district. That might be hard to do, but I thought that was powerful, maybe figuring out how we could do that. Again, I went to ours, and that was really good. The general sessions were also good. I went to one on the impact of social media, and they talked a little bit about the lawsuits and just some of the things that we could do with technology. And then I went to a class that was just awful. I don't know. You just get stuck in those, right? And you're in the middle of the row, and there's just no way to get out. But the title looked good. But the other takeaway that I got is I love to be able to follow and talk to other school board members from around the state and our friends. And so I actually created a list looking at their notes and talking to them of sessions I wish I could have gone. Some of them were during ours. But there was a really good one on aviation the Provo School District went to, and they want to start an aviation program. And I thought, God, we have an airport in the middle of our district, you know. Maybe that's something that we could look at. And then another one I didn't go to, I wish I would have. I really do think that this is something that is staring at us kind of like the suicide crisis and kind of like COVID. But we have a big crisis, I think, with the immigrant situation with non-English speakers moving into our schools at a rapid rate. And there was some sessions there that were given on that, and I wasn't able to go again because it was during the time that I had our presentation. But it was really interesting to read their notes and talk to some of the people that did go to that one. I just think that that's something we need to put on a radar, and we need to start figuring out what we're going to do with our non-English speaking student population, and especially in some of our high schools. And so I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. It's certainly something I'm going to start digging into and trying to figure out. I'd love to have anyone's ideas and supports. And as a team, I would like to go in 6 years. Maybe it'd be good to do it in 3, and be a national leader in that situation. I think it's going to hit us pretty hard. It already is. But anyways, overall, great conference. These are well worth my time. I learned so much, and I realized that we have so much to learn. But I also just this time really took away appreciation that we have a really good school district, and I'm really grateful to be on the team.
And I believe we have an aviation program.
Oh, do we already have it?
Right? JTC.
That was fast. Okay, never mind. See?
Done.
You asked,
You're all
we
like,
deliver.
you guys are all smiling. I am going to go visit the aviation program. Well, that looks bad for me, but that's again, I mean, it really is that pathway JAT program that they were explaining and they go, we're really like only a year or 2 into this. And I'm just like, we are well into it. So we really do personalized learning and deliver it at a great rate. So, okay, I'm going to the aviation program to take a look at what they do. Maybe they could have got me to the meeting a little earlier. So, anyways.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And, you know, Daryl, I went to a class called Connecting with Your Spanish-Speaking Families.
That was the one, yeah.
It was amazing. Ever since I have been on school community councils and PTAs, a huge question has been, how can we involve our Spanish-speaking families in school activities more? And there were really good ideas. The presenters were from Longview, Texas, where I think 45% of the population in their high school is Hispanic or Spanish-speaking. And some of the things that they do, and I was blown away by just these simple ideas, have really increased engagement. But something that they do is they have their varsity soccer games are announced in Spanish. They have, anyway, and then also they have partnered with a Spanish language radio station, and they do a radio show 2 times a week during the school day. It's like a class with the students. And so there were some really good ideas that I am really jazzed about. I even went to a PTA meeting this morning, and I talked to the PTA president of West Jordan High School, because I know she's had this question. I said, oh my goodness, I have these ideas, and I shared some with her, and she said, wow, this is amazing. So that was a really, really good class. And
So if I heard right, we have to kind of meet them where they are.
Yeah, that was a huge point of it, is find places, connect with church leaders in Spanish-speaking churches. That was what they had said. Also in grocery stores, like Mexican grocery stores, Venezuelan grocery stores, radio stations, soccer. They invited a pro soccer team from Ecuador to come and give a soccer camp, all ages soccer camp in their school district. And this team came free. They did not cost the school anything, because the sponsors were very enthused about this photo opportunity, like this outreach. And I think that they're going to come again. And I just felt like there were a lot of really good ideas. It made me think about, so like one of the keynote speakers, the keynote speaker from Monday was Richard Montañez, who invented Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And something that he said was that, it was so amazing. After his speech, I felt just
warm all over.
Excited to move forth and conquer the world. Really, it was so good. But he said that revelation it's not something new. It's when something that has been there is revealed to you. And so going to this class about connecting with Spanish-speaking families, that's what I felt like. Oh, these things I knew. Anyway, I really appreciated.
So tell me if this is true, because this was interesting to me. These immigrants are not coming in as illegal. They're coming in as political asylum. Asylum is the right word? They're being forced out of their country.
I don't think that that's necessarily the point,
class?
but that
So
wasn't something that we talked about.
They come with some trust issues, from what I was hearing.
Oh, and that was something there. In some countries of the world, there is a level of corruption in government. And so in people coming from some countries, especially countries where there's unrest and where you're hungry and where there's danger, you have your circle that you trust, your friends and your family and your community, but it's hard to trust government entities. And so
we have to build that.
Yeah. And so that was and it was really good. It was like understanding it. There was a big point 2 was made. Don't assume that you know what people want, what they need. You need to ask and find out. So I really love that. And Daryl, like you said, something I wrote in all capital letters is it's all about trust when it comes to the Hispanic community. And I think that's not just Hispanic community, it's all communities. And I just want to clarify, when I say Hispanic, I mean Spanish speaking, people who come from a country where people speak Spanish. Okay. And then I went to a special education class and learned about all of the acronyms, because I just needed to learn about the acronyms, and that was really, really good for me to learn the difference between IEP and 504, because I've used them interchangeably in my mind, and about the legal ramifications of some of those things. It's important to remember that as a school district, we can't say we can't afford to accommodate a student because that's illegal. It's not about money. It's about giving free and appropriate education to a student. So that was really, really good. And I can't say enough about the keynote speakers. Ruby Bridges was there, and Tim Shriver, and like I said, Richard Montañez, and each one of them gave really, really meaningful presentations or talks. And I appreciate always hearing about the Dignity Index. It's always a good reminder to treat other people with dignity in all of our interactions. That's what Tim Shriver spoke about, and about Special Olympics. And anyway, yeah, I went to, it was a really good conference. I appreciate it. I went to our school district's presentation and learned more about the history of Wellness Day, and I am so impressed by what a bargain it is. How little it costs to give teachers an opportunity to interact with each other, or take a personal day, or use the day to catch up, and not just teachers, but staff members too. I had no idea what a good deal it was as far as budget wise. So anyway,
Thank you. Nikki, do you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. I will just echo the keynote speakers for me this time were absolutely just life-changing. It was amazing to be able to listen to those messages. Something that I thought was really profound from Ruby Bridges was she talked a little bit about where we have, how we've evolved since the time that she was a child desegregating the first school. And she had a really amazing story to share. She has actually had a child who was murdered and a brother who was murdered. And when her brother was murdered, it left his children with no one to parent. And so she came back to New Orleans, which was really fun to be actually there when she was talking about it. And she walked into the same school that she desegregated, now from the role of a caregiver. And she talked a lot about, she walked in and she mentioned that while her story was shared in certain communities, her name honestly was not released until 1995. I mean, that was so recent. It blew my mind to hear that. And she talked about walking into this school and the principal recognized her name because a book had just been released that kind of talked about who she was and her story. And so the principal grabbed her and pulled her into her office and said, "We need your help." And so she became a liaison for the other parents in this school. And she began to bridge the gap between home and school. And in really simple ways, she had parents coming in to clean bathrooms. I mean, they were really on the ground level. And again, this is pretty recent. And she just talked about how essential it is that as educators, that line of working together with parents and being able to have those roles cross over, that's how we develop trust. And something else that she talked about that was, just really kind of stopped my heart for a minute was, she said, this fight is not about color. She said, racism is just another tool to divide us. It isn't about color, it's about good versus evil. And that our responsibility in this fight is to be able to recognize divisive behaviors and fight for unity. which I just thought was profound and beautiful. Anyways, so then I spent some time, I did a lot of the Ready, Set, Govern classes. I really felt, first of all, proud to be from Utah. You know, you go in and each of the general sessions starts with a lot of, you know, talking about what's happening in other places throughout the United States and Canada. And almost every time I found myself leaning over to Anthony saying, hey, you got to feel pretty good about this, because these people are being recognized and almost across the board for things that our district is already doing really well, that we probably could have taught on any number of things there. So it was really, I was proud to be from such a hardworking state and such a progressive state when it comes to education. Anyways, so I learned a ton about my roles as a board member, and I found that those classes for me were some of the most beneficial because we are so ahead of the curve in a lot of comparisons to other districts that we're presenting, which I hope doesn't sound too snarky. And then I also went to our district's presentation on employee wellness, and some of the things that I took away from that were from McKinley Withers. He had so many great things to remind us of, but one of the things he talked about is that we sometimes we fight as people to separate ourselves from pain. And he said that in our pathway of healing, we need to understand that pain pushes us towards joy and be able to embrace the emotion that we're feeling now. And he talked a lot about as if you were on a hike where you were following Karen markers on the trail, and how by design, you can't see the next Karen until you're at the one just before it. And I just thought that was really helpful. He also talked about a survey that he did, if I'm remembering this correctly, please feel free to correct me if you were there, of teachers, and said, if resources weren't a barrier, what would you ask for? And one of the answers was 15 minutes a day. And so sometimes we think we need to do these giant, overwhelming programs when really the needs are within reach. We can meet the needs of our students and teachers. And I'll try to, I won't go through all of it, but I also was just super impressed by, like I said, all of the keynote speakers. And again, Utah was really well represented. It was fun to have Pammy Pfeiffer there. She did not present, but she did such a great job with her work with Dr. Timothy Schreiber. And then, of course, our final keynote session that was already touched upon was really insightful. So it was a great conference, and I just want to say a huge thank you to our taxpayers who make it possible for us to really become a more efficient board through training that's available. And I'm thankful for that sacrifice that allowed us to be there.
Thank you. Dr. Godfrey, do you have anything?
I'll just add, it was a great conference, great to hear other ideas, and we, I was able to attend some sessions. I won't go through all the names of the districts necessarily, but there were some out-of-state districts that did some things, and I was excited about what they did, and then I saw that the way they did it was to increase special ed funding by 38% for their entire district. I thought, well, I can see how you were able to solve some problems by that infusion of cash. Anyway, there were some great ideas shared. The keynotes, I'll just echo that. The keynotes were outstanding. And I came away feeling like it was a really good use of time and resources for us to be there. Doug, Sandy, and McKinley did a tremendous job. They're always so well prepared. And the compliment they get every time is, "This was the best session." And every time, this time again, somebody says, "The whole trip was worth sitting in this session." So they had that compliment once again from someone we don't know. I don't remember from what state, but they represent us well. But more than that, they share important information with other districts so they can benefit from some of the breakthroughs that we've had. So it's always exciting for me to be able to present with them, and they do a great job. What I observe is that I get to talk with a lot of superintendents from Utah, but from across the country, and I see board members doing that a ton. Every board member just taking opportunities to talk with people they've never spoken with and get ideas from them. So there are a lot of ideas that come out of this, from formal presentations, from keynotes, but also from a lot of great conversations that take place. So it's an honor to get to go, and I enjoyed every time. So it was great.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay.
What's our relationship as a board to the NSBA? Is there some kind of an agreement, or does that work?
So we are not members of NSBA. There's a couple different levels with NSBA, and we're not members with them, but we are members of USBA, and USBA is a member of NSBA. So that is our relationship. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think we could have a direct relationship with NSBA and have a higher level of membership status, but we don't do that. We just have it through USBA. Is that correct?
That's right. And there are 22 states at this point that are officially members of NSBA. So fewer than there used to be by a ways.
Is Utah one of those 22?
Utah is one of those.
That comes when you say Utah is a member.
The UASB,
Utah School Boards Association
That's where
is a member.
yeah, USBA, sorry.
that's where the state of Utah is considered a member, because USBA is a member.
Right. Because the only state association of school boards in Utah is a member of NSBA.
Sorry, another question. How is NSBA funded?
For dues.
USBA pays, those 22 states pay USBA, just like we pay USBA dues. USBA pays NSBA dues.
Yes. And they also have sponsors too, like for the conference and stuff. They have sponsors, but it is mostly through dues.
Okay. Last question, I think. Do the members that serve on NSBA, the president, whatever management structure they have, are those volunteer positions or are those paid positions?
So those are volunteer positions, but there is paid positions. There's an executive director of NSBA that is paid, and there's a couple other paid positions with them.
So it's probably a similar structure to the Utah School Board Association.
Right. Utah School Board Association also has a paid full-time director.
The president is a member of the Salt Lake School District this year.
I think I'd heard that, yeah.
Yeah. And that is volunteer. They do get like their travel expenses paid for. And possibly a per diem for meetings or something like that, but it's not a paid job.
I've just had maybe some mixed feelings. I love the idea of sharing ideas. I think that's great, and getting motivated by these speakers. I've just had mixed feelings about a national organization discussing local education. I don't know exactly where I stand on it right now, but I love the idea of sharing ideas. I think that's valuable. I'm just questioning
So how I see that is it's not really a national organization as much as districts like ours saying, hey, look at what we're doing. So the ideas that came from our district that all these other districts are going to be blessed with now really isn't coming from a national organization. They host the event, you know, but I don't know that they push the agenda per se. They give opportunities for people like us to say, hey, this is something cool we're doing. And someone talks about aviation, already doing that, but
I didn't know either, so you weren't the only one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though, because I've been
Yeah.
to national conferences where there's a whole national organization with a paid staff and an agenda that they're pushing out to you. I have not seen that within SBA. They really are just bringing together board members and districts from across the country and letting them share ideas, and anybody can apply to present a class. Or, you know, sometimes, you know, there's an area where people are asked to present a class, but I agree, there's doesn't seem to be a national agenda.
They don't lobby the federal government. Like USBA, USBA plays a prominent role in speaking out on local issues at our state government, but I don't see NSBA playing a prominent role in federal politics.
It was mentioned that they were hoping to get IDEA fully funded by the federal government. So I don't know if that counts as, I don't know exactly what they do about
I think
that.
they follow national
but
legislation.
I think they follow it, and I don't know what they do with that, but
Good questions though. Thanks for asking.
can I, first of all, thank Roxanne and travel department for all that they do, but then can we ask staff or somebody to get some clarification on the next one? So on their website, they say it's the last week of March, which is exciting for me. But they were giving out like peaches and stuff like that because it's going to be in Georgia, and that's saying it's the first week in April. And so, and I asked a bunch of people there and nobody knew. So I was just wondering if we can get a clear answer on, because it'd be nice to get it on our calendar now instead of later. And it'd also probably be nice if we have the arrangements made with hotels and stuff earlier rather than later. So
Yeah, I'll find out.
thank you.
Okay, let's back up to our next agenda, or to our previous agenda item, which is a review of portrait of graduate materials. So we've finalized all the content, and last time we met, we were just talking about design, and we brought some ideas last time, and after further discussion, took some of those ideas out of the running. So we're now down to just kind of a basic idea, a few different versions of that basic idea. And there's hard copies to look at because that helps tremendously.
This makes all the difference to see it.
Yeah, yeah, we, so
You laugh at us.
So our goal is to finalize the design of this so that we can vote on it at our next board meeting in 2 weeks. So there's 4 different options in front of you, and then the last one is just a poster. Like we were going to put up just a portrait of a graduate in our schools. This is a mock-up of what a poster could look like that was just portrait of the graduate. The other ones include our mission, vision, values, our strategic plan pillars, and the portrait of a graduate characteristics on them. So, Sandy, do you have anything you want to say on this, or Chad, Doug?
No, we're just open to joining the conversation, or if you have any questions. This is really up to you, the direction you want to go. I think I really like what I see in front of us from the work that you have already done, and then with some of the revisions that we talked about with Tracy and Nikki. I really like what is in front of us right now. So I think we have some really strong options to go with. So we're ready
I
to
know you don't
work
like to do this, but I'm going to push. You bring in expertise that I don't have What I'd love to know is which is your favorite and why. I know that makes you a little uncomfortable, but what is your favorite professionally speaking? I'm going to ask you the same thing, Chad. What is your favorite professionally speaking and why? What rules does it apply? What rules do the others violate? Just from your professional opinion, can I ask which one do you like the best?
Well, Chad, do you?
Go ahead.
I personally I like a couple of them. I like D4 because it's so straightforward and it includes the images, but it shows the pillars supporting the characteristics, which is kind of the whole idea of this. I don't like just icons, and we made the pictures bigger in each of them, and we swapped out some of the pictures. And right at the very top, it shows what this is all about. It's all about getting students to graduation and doing it successfully. So either graduation picture I do like. And then the second would probably be, again, D3, because it's simple. It has pictures in it, but just very straightforward, and it tells a story. I don't think without pictures this tells a good story. I don't think icons alone, that's why I wasn't a big fan of the icons, just alone without any pictures. The visuals are going to draw people in. Everything we do, every time we do it, the most popular brochures, anything we put out, it's the visual that draws people in, and we hear it over and over and over again.
And I can talk to the pictures a little bit. All the pictures are from the last 3 years. They're either photo shoots that we set up or events that we held where we had media releases, but I always kind of save a file folder of my favorite photos that we take every year, and I use those to build the photos that we chose from that. And so they're all students from the last 3 years of Jordan District. So.
And I gotta say, the boy whose face I love, putting him in a classroom, brilliant. Flawlessly executed.
And that was a photo shoot we had done for our virtual schools, and he was an adorable student. So.
And now imagine when he sees this, he's going to realize I learn virtually and in person.
Okay, that was Sandy's.
Okay, so
Doug?
asking me that question's kind of like asking me as a parent which child I like the most.
I know.
And I'm probably going to answer with the same parent answer, that there are things about each one that I like the most.
But if you had a child that, I think you could say, I have a child that's more effective communicator than my other children.
Okay,
So
fair
which
enough.
one is the most effective communicator from your your professional perspective?
Not which one of your children, which one is
Fair enough. For me, the one that actually stands out the most is D5. It's the one that kind of takes what's most important from this project, which is the characteristics of Portrait of a Graduate. It was intended for schools, but by bringing it down and simplifying it down to just what it is most important, it's what stands out the most.
Thank you.
For a banner format, I agree that number 5, I would love to see tall banners hanging in our schools with a graduate from every one of the individual schools. So at Riverton, you'd have a Riverton image. At, Harriman, you'd have a Harriman image. So students could have buy-in and see themselves in that picture.
And for me, I think D1 and D4 are my favorites. I personally am a big fan of white space that you see in these because it helps draw in people into the content, and they just kind of have the right balance of white space and just seem to be able to follow along as you go. Especially D4, it just kind of seems like there's a natural flow of it. And the photos that we've chosen in both of those, I think, or in all of these have been wonderful photos. So, but I'm not opposed to changing them out, or if we need to go get new photos, it's not hard to go do.
you. So we can choose a one pager with everything and then still go with the D5 posters in schools, right?
And tell us about the mountain scene. I understand that's the Ochre Mountains.
So yeah, it is the Ochre Mountains. So what I did was, we have a couple of hotels west of the district office, and I went and walked out and took my iPhone and I put it in the panoramic mode and then just scanned across the ochres and then brought it back and took the photo and cut it out so that it was our mountain range. That's how that was built.
That's awesome.
Do you want our input now or later?
Yep.
Yep, later.
Oh. Now, and we can make changes if need be, or if we have one we're all settled on, that's great too.
Okay, well, I appreciate your input. They're all really, really nice. I lost the copper pit, so I want to keep the mountains. D2,
I agree, pit isn't a good word, but mine is an excellent
that's what I
educational
was
word.
thinking.
The copper mine.
Copper mine. Yeah.
There's a book now, mine out of it, some great truth.
Anyway, so if we're not settling, that's not a good choice of words, forgive me. If we're deciding on these four, D2 is my favorite because it shows the entire mountain range and doesn't get interfered by a picture. I like the picture being down below, and I really love the pictures of the characteristics. But I love the full mountain range as it is in D2. That's my choice.
Can a mountain range be
Marilyn,
put on
I'm so
D4?
surprised. That was the least orange picture.
I know, but it has the full mountain range.
Okay, can a mountain range be put on D4? Or does that distract from it? Just curious.
It can. If you want to give me a second, I can start working on that.
The mountain range they cut off on D1 was my house.
And it's not cut off, it's just blended into the picture.
Which is fine. It,
Still there, but. Okay, any other thoughts?
I really like D3 and D4 because of the different colors. I like having the icons being white against the orange backgrounds and the purple backgrounds. So for me, these really, both of them really grab my attention because of the different colors, the purple and the orange.
I'll admit that when I read Tracy's email telling us that Pitt had been removed because it wasn't a good image for education, the thought that came to me was that classic scene in Princess Bride, down in the pit of despair. And but yeah, I agree that might not be the best idea, but mine, I guess, is another option. One I liked the best was D4. Yeah, I think it flows well. It shows the kind of the progression, pillars on the bottom, what they're supporting. Yeah, that'd probably be my preference.
I honestly think the pillars on D4 are kind of overpowering. And I realize that it's a symbol of, supporting the whole cause, but I think they're still overpowering. I think they're too large.
Okay, so here's D4 with the mountain line. That was really quick. Thank you. It's like it's not as clean as just D4.
Lose the graduation picture.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the best thing about D4 is that
Graduate.
graduation picture up in the top. I like D4. That's my favorite.
With that change,
No, I like the old D4.
you want to lose the mountains too?
I don't want to say this publicly, but I'm going to say this publicly.
You're on record.
If we get in a contest of mountains, we're going to lose to canyons. Canyons are going to say ours are bigger and better, and yours are littler. And so for me, highlighting that we're a mountain district makes us look like the little sister.
We have more gold in ours.
We don't know that.
Well,
We've taken the gold out of
discovered
ours.
gold.
So I like the original D4 because I like the graduation picture up in the top.
Yeah, there's kind of a progression.
Yep.
From the pillars to the characteristics and the kind of moving up. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have to lose the graduation picture even though the mountains are put in?
No, we could actually probably scoot the pillars off to the right or to the left and put a graduation picture down at the bottom right hand or left hand.
Make the pillars maybe a little smaller because they're very overpowering for me.
Yes, that could be done.
That's the only thing I see. My eye goes right there.
Can I ask, do you guys like the pillars better than the dots? We talked about it, Tracy, Nikki, and our group. We talked about in some of these variations, they're just icons. Some of them, they're a circle with a dot down at the bottom. Kind of looks like a pin, like in Google Maps. And then we just did try to do a traditional pillar. Do you guys have a preference on which one you like the most?
I prefer the pillars, and I prefer them underneath the characteristics because they're holding the characteristics. I would not want to move them to the side because then we lose that. For me, the pillars are where we live day in and day out to hold up the characteristics so that it results in graduations.
We also live in the mountains.
I don't.
So if we
Nor do
added,
you.
Kidding.
if we add a picture to the bottom and moved the pillars over, it would be like this, basically. Except that these would be pillars.
I really like D4 as is, and I also like D3 as is, but I also like the size of the pillars. Like I said, how colorful it is and having these, the complementary colors with the purple. I just really, really like it. It's very eye-catching.
Okay, but where do your eyes go first?
Graduate.
To the center.
Sorry I choked you up.
Okay, to the center.
Really?
Yeah, just because of the white around the darker purple. I don't know.
Your eyes usually go to the biggest object, which is the graduate in almost every one of these, which I think is appropriate.
Do you have a favorite?
These are all fantastic. I would put my name on every single. I do like the idea of having pictures there. I hope from time to time we could even change those pictures so that 25 years from now, if we're still using this model, that we don't have a teacher who says that's my picture.
Well, Daryl, you make a good point because we did talk about that. We thought, we've got plenty of opportunities. We have graduates every year, and certainly depending on how you decide to push it out and what format. Like I said, especially with the banner, like every year we could, if we can find somebody to print the banners at a reasonable cost, we could put up new banners with graduates from the previous year so people know what they can aspire to. But the same would be true with any of these designs.
Changing out photos is fairly easy with that, and it's not hard for us to go out to the schools and get new ones. So
This is a fantastic job. These are incredible.
Vicki, do you have a favorite?
Sorry, I'm a little slow on that. I really like D2 and D1.
On D1, your mountain range still carries. It just is covered by that picture, right?
I feel the same way as Daryl. Like I could put my name on any one of these. I think they're all
Best
fantastic.
part of this is watching Chad do his magic.
Awesome.
Oh, hey, look, now we have a graduate and the pillars moved over.
So yeah, that's what it would look like if we moved the graduate down to the corner, included the mountains. Pillars would just be moved over a little bit.
And I can try the other graduate picture if you'd prefer.
Well, and this might sound weird, but how about the graduate on the other side? Just because she's looking off the page.
Looking
Can you
into the
flip her?
page.
So she's facing the pillars.
Yeah,
Give me
and it's not even about facing the pillars. It's just about looking off the page for me.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's a good point.
Like a really
It's a
good
really
point.
good point.
Just flip her.
Is that what you guys have in mind?
It really does.
Dr. Godfrey, do you have a favorite? And Carolyn Goff, do you have a favorite?
I like either D4 or Mountainous D4 now that we have the graduate photo back in. The graduate photo needs to be part of it. I get what you're saying about the mountains, though, Bryce. That kind of speaks to me as claiming mountains is more of a stretch for us than for others. So, I don't know. Maybe I like the original D4. And I know, Marilyn, that you feel the pillars are, did you say powerful?
Overpowered.
Oh, overpowering. Okay. You could change the pillars to the same color scheme as the top banner. And soften it a little bit.
I just love that orange in there. But yeah.
I was just looking for a way to make them less overpowering.
Orange is
So,
not a color. I'll
Chad,
us
can
buy
I
new
make one
jerseys.
suggestion? Copy that one, and then see how much space you have between. In the pillars, you have a lot of space between the text and the bottom. Slide them all down until right before that pillar touches the outside,
Okay.
and then elongate the characteristics a little bit so they're taller.
Okay, let me see what I can do. The problem is those pillars are currently graphic elements, so I have to kind of go through and manipulate them one at a time. I can push them down easily, but to get the actual text and the icons, it's going to take a little more time. But let me go ahead and duplicate this page.
Marilyn, I know you're concerned about them being overpowering. I like that they're kind of a strong element of the page because I can't remember who else was saying it, but it's actual graphic representation of the concept that these pillars undergird the work that is done to accomplish these things.
The characteristic is not something that we do. It's something that it's a result we want to see in our students. Where we live are in those 5 pillars. That's where we as a school district do our work.
In that case, the pillar at the bottom is best, and then you work up to the characteristics that they're developing with us.
I just picture myself talking somebody through this document and saying these pillars support these outcomes. And I
If we
think the way
short-
that it's laid out, it helps that make sense.
If we shorten that pillar and we elongate the characteristics, it may soften that a little bit and brings a little bit more emphasis to the characteristics. But still, I really like those pillars underneath.
I do see what you mean. My eyes go to the pillars. I just like that. I like that they go to the pillars.
So you're talking if we elongated the portrait of a graduate characteristics, like maybe the first one, curious thinkers, we could have curious on one line,
No.
thinkers on the next line, and just make that orange
or the
purple a little
graphic
bigger.
above the text. You could put the graphic
Oh,
above
the
the
graphic
text
and then curious thinkers,
and lengthen the text out.
and then shrink the pillars a little.
And it might make the pillars look like they're even more supporting the characteristics more so if you do what you're talking about.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that's more parallel too, because on the pillars we have icon and then the words, and so if we did that on the characteristics with the icon and then the words.
Yep. See, that strengthens the size of the characteristics, so it's not so dominating. The pillars aren't so dominating, but it's still everything I like about D4, it maintains.
Okay, where's let's so D excuse me, D4, and maybe with a few visual changes.
Whatever Chad wants to call this one he's making right now, that's my choice.
Okay.
Currently D7.
D7.
It's never A or B. It's always C, D, or F.
Always.
Always.
Brian.
How do you feel about the white space there? I'm sorry.
Oh.
Chad.
On this one,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I think that right now, obviously working in real time, I have a little bit of play that I can use to kind of, you'll see there's a little bit of white space above where it says Portrait of a Graduate Characteristics. I can play with them horizontally to get them all to flow nicely.
Marilyn, what do you think of that? But if
We really should have a river.
I really don't agree with you on the mountain thing.
your concern about the pillars were too much, does this soften it?
Well, I need to see it completely done first. See where my eye goes.
Where do you want your eyes to
Gotta
go?
remember, I'm an art minor.
I know.
Okay. You didn't know that, did you?
I don't think I knew that. Lisa or Brian, where are you at with it?
I like this one, and I like it without. It's not that I like it without the mountains. I like it with the portrait, with the graduate in at the top. Yeah, because it shows kind of a natural flow. We're starting here, and this is what we're ending up with. So it's not that I don't want the mountains in there. I just want the graduate at the top.
Chad, can you tell me why you centered pillars but not characteristics of a graduate?
That's a good question. Mostly I centered the pillars because it looked really good centered. I could totally center the characteristics to be consistent. A lot of it's been, we liked this or we liked that, and it's just gotten to the point where it is, and it just kind of is right where it's at, so.
I like putting it in the middle.
Do we need to call it strategic plan pillars, or is pillars good enough?
I think pillars is descriptive enough.
Okay.
The mission, vision, and values get a little lost. I wonder if there's a darker color.
Like on D1 and D2, the darker blue.
The only thing I don't like about D7 is the graduate is significantly smaller than the others, so it really doesn't do what I liked with the others, where it draws you to the graduate. So I don't know if there's a way to make it bigger.
Make the graduate bigger.
You could pull it down below the blue bar.
That's what I was wondering, and then leave Portrait of Graduate on the side like we had it.
Let's start with the color first.
Am I the only one? Mission, vision, values gets a little hard to see compared to everything else.
I can see it.
There it is on the darker blue, and I can even make it even darker if you'd like. Or we can go.
Yeah, what if you had the lighter with the black bullet points?
Well, there it
Oh,
is in
not black
black. Well,
background.
there it is in black, just for reference.
Yeah, no black.
Black, okay. Let's go back to the
Hey, the best part of this is watching Chad run into his man.
I really
Good.
like the balance of portrait of a graduate, characteristics centered. I think it balances things out better.
InDesign is complicated.
Lisa?
I'm not super particular about. I like the characteristics centered. I like how this one looks with the blue, the purple, the orange, and the pictures. I like the graduate up at the top, like Brian said. And I think it stands out enough. I like how each is different enough that it makes me more intentional about looking at each thing or something.
I like that.
So you're okay with? Nikki, this group is moving towards our D7 modification. I don't know if you can see it or not.
So on the picture,
I
there's
can
not.
see a little.
Okay.
Yep.
So how does everyone feel if we say, D4 is what we like, we will let Chad continue to make tweaks and this team come up with the visual best representation? Is everyone okay with that, giving them the freedom to continue to make little tweaks to what looks best?
Fine with me.
Can I
Because
just
they're the
share
pros.
my quick perspective on what is being developed? It feels really linear. I feel like it's, I don't know, 3 very distinct straight columns, and it's boring to me. I think we need a little interest, which in my opinion is offered by the mountains. And I think that when we talk about us in a race against canyons for the best mountains, I'm not sure that's a concern I share. I hope that this isn't whose is better.
I like that, Chad. Well done.
I prefer it with the white personally, just because I like the higher contrast between the white and the blue. But
Do you like the darker background? Or do you like it the two-tone with the
I like
logo
it the
on
two-tone
dark?
personally, with the
Okay.
Jordan logo in the darker, because I feel like we have the two dark squares on the corner. I don't know. It looks good to me when it has the.
I like the white.
Can I ask, did anyone just hear my last comment?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, there was just no comment about it.
Marilyn agrees with you.
I commented it with body language.
Well, Chad could take what we have right here, leave this D7 as it is, and make one more. He said it would take a little extra time, putting the mountains popping up from
Through the light
the
blue.
characteristics, so that you'd see it wouldn't be as defined as in, what is that, D2 or D1, but you could, what I could see is having mountains kind of popping up from behind the characteristics, and you could do
We
that.
could do it. I don't know that it might get lost a little bit with all the other, with the photos and the icons. It might be a little too much, but we could try it.
Would it take away the white space? Would it be like gray or something back there?
It would be white. It would
would
be
be
white
white.
mountains. Mhm.
I'd rather have a river than a mountain.
Could you,
I don't want to make it harder.
could you do the mountains just here?
I can. Give me just a minute.
Because the peak is here, and when you get to that left side, or right side, it's a lower peak, so your higher peaks are here.
Yeah, let me try.
You just take the mountains between those.
The mountains are in a dark format right now, so they might need to be adjusted down the line, but I can at least try that, and you can see it in person.
Okay, let's let them work for a little bit on some potential options. And let's go ahead and do board and superintendent reports and comments. And then we'll come back to this. You guys okay with that? Sure. Okay. Okay, facilities committee.
Just quickly, we met last Tuesday. We invited Scott Feston to come and meet with us and just give us an update on anything regarding building, enrollment forecasts, have they changed? And also on, the boundary issue that we're working on. And so he did update us, and there's not much change right now. However, there was an announcement on Sunday. I'm wondering how much that will change things. Who knows?
But just
Also, we just had an update on all of the projects that we're currently involved in, and not much has changed there either. So that's all we had.
Okay, so our boundary change, we're still going to be doing this fall, and then after October enrollment counts is when we'll be doing our building plan as a board, right? Okay. Okay, thank you. Finance committee
most of our
audit.
presentation will be happening in closed session, so.
Okay, government relations.
Nothing new this week.
Okay, thank you. Joint relations. Nothing yet, but that'll be coming soon. GIAC.
I don't have anything to report.
JPAC. When did we decide on a
We're not gonna we're gonna wait till fall.
fall? Okay. Okay, and then LEAC. Oh, hold on just a second.
See you, Bryce.
Bryce LEAC.
Just waiting for portrait of a graduate to be approved.
Next.
There's no reason to gather, and we're running out of time. We may not be able to gather until the fall.
Okay.
They're antsy, I'm antsy, but I just don't see a reason to. This is our priority, and until it's approved, I don't want to move forward.
I feel like it will be approved in 2 weeks, though. April 23rd. So if we want to get scheduled, if you want to get something scheduled, I think it's okay. But you're right, we are running towards the end of the year. Okay, board bulletin. Are we due to have a new one? We had one in January. It's now April, and we're going to do them quarterly.
Say it'd be great to do another one.
Yes. Does anyone have any suggestions on what they would like included in the board bulletin?
Besides portrait of a graduate?
That should be the focal point, I think.
Did we do our new safety protocols in the January one? Okay.
You gotta do Juniper Elementary and a little bit of history.
I like that.
I wouldn't mind having a separate one for Portrait of the Graduate Special Edition or something.
Extra, read all about it.
We don't have to, but it might be nice. There's a lot there to try to explain, but whether or not we just mention Portrait of a Graduate now, it'd be nice maybe in the fall to have a separate, just this is Portrait of a Graduate.
Actually like that idea, because just in recapping our whole process of, based on input from the community, and this is what we developed, and
Maybe now just a small mention, maybe the graphic, but I would like a more in-depth one. And whether or not it comes as board report or what, I don't care.
I like that idea in the fall. I worry about getting too much portrait of a graduate out before we have administrative buy-in. I think that's a very important first step.
yeah, but I agree. I think we do want a big portrait of a graduate roll out to the whole community as just one big separate thing.
I don't know if we'll have our calendar approved before this one comes out.
We can put it out right after the calendar is approved if that goes
I think
smoothly
that'd be
in a
good.
couple of weeks. So we could add calendar to that list.
Are we adding any new JATC programs, or would it be helpful to just have a recap of all the JATC programs we do offer?
We have aviation.
We are offering new programs. Might be better maybe at the end of the calendar year, right before people are deciding about what classes to take.
They've already decided.
Right.
So maybe that's a next end of the year.
We could do, you know what, we could do a brief item about buying the portable to expand the construction, because that's board action and it shows an expansion of programs. What if we did that?
That's good.
Your fence. It defended your, it changed the parking area.
And then I also thought about mentioning the JROTC program. Have you mentioned that yet?
Not in,
Letter?
not in Duluth, no. Mm-mm.
I would love to highlight Bingham High School and that the remodel is now complete and what we did and how much we saved taxpayers by remodeling it. Now that we're complete, we should tell the story.
And are we still gonna dedicate that and that? Is that gonna,
Yep.
we wait until the fall and then, or probably be a good time?
And where are we at with full day K? Are we adding any more full day kindergarten programs, or is that staying the same?
We added quite a number of them this year.
I think it is. That's huge,
Yeah, we can add that.
Coming graduation dates and times.
Locations? You're gonna have too much, aren't you?
This is looking like 2.
So let me read off the list. Let's see if it matches what you have, and then we can decide what we want to keep or not keep. Juniper Elementary, the calendar, the construction portable, JROTC, Bingham remodels complete, full day kindergarten, and graduation dates and times. Is that what you've written down too?
And, well, I had portrait of a graduate, but we could hold off on that one if you wanted to make a special edition.
Let's do that separately.
Okay.
Okay, so out of those 7, is there any you want to remove? We could take off full day kindergarten, unless someone
Well-
else feels strongly about that.
I think graduation dates are nice, but I don't know how they're board action. Or like, if they fit in the purview of the board bulletin.
It would, because
Does it?
the board ultimately is
It's our event.
Okay.
graduation and conferring.
Okay. Okay.
Remove full day K, is everyone okay with that?
At this point, I don't know that that would, I mean, would we make people more aware and they would reach out and take advantage of the opportunity? Or would it be too late?
They've kind of passed the day they're supposed to let us know.
If we've passed the deadline, it might be frustrating to point that out and say, oh, by the way,
I think you're right. I think the individual schools are already advertising that, so.
I think we take that off the list. Okay, we're down to 6.
I think that's doable. Let's try.
And if it's if it's too much, like we could hold off on the construction one till a later one, or the JROTC, we could hold off till later.
given the two schools, I'd rather highlight Bingham because it's totally complete, ready to go. and Juniper's not quite there.
I have a mild concern that if we say Bingham is done, the board is finished, by the way, we're in the middle of this new project, it might be confusing to people who aren't closely following
What new project?
the baseball field that we've been talking about so much in board meeting.
I think it's a different project.
Yeah, I
that's not a board
understand that, but
project.
I'm just saying it's confusing.
I think it's gonna take a while for that.
Yeah, I'd hesitate telling Bingham's story until the baseball's done, because that wasn't board action. What was board action was saving millions of dollars
Under
by
a million.
remodeling a school whose shell was in good condition, just needed to be tweaked.
That's the story.
Especially when you compare it to what Canyons did with Brighton and Hillcrest. And the cost of rebuilding those two schools compared to what we spent to remodel Bingham High School,
Skyline and Cypress.
which is comparable ages. That's the story, is we saved taxpayers millions of dollars and ended up with a beautiful school.
That should be a newsletter all by itself.
So keep it in this one.
I think so.
I agree. Keep it in on this. In this
And
one.
Juniper could go either way, I think. Juniper could be, it might be better to do it in the fall. If you have the room, do it now. Either way.
Okay, so possibly hold off on Juniper.
Put that on your, can go either way.
Okay, we're good on a potential board bulletin? Okay, thank you. Okay, JLC, nothing to report for that, although there is a meeting coming up very soon on that one. Jordan Education Foundation, you should have all received an invitation to the awards banquet for the Outstanding Educators of the Year. It's April 17th. It is a fantastic night. I highly encourage everyone to come if you can make it. And if you have not already RSVP'd, please do so as soon as possible for that. And then just future things coming up. The challenge runs May 11th and registration's open on the website for that. There's also an author night with Dan Jones, May 16th, that I mentioned before, and registration for both of those are on the website. And then this Thursday, there's an organization called Thanksgiving Heroes that provides Thanksgiving meals to a lot of our communities. Well, they've started doing a spring meal delivery also, and they are doing that this Thursday to one of the schools in our district. And if you're available between 4 and 6 and want to come down and help volunteer, box up food and deliver, let me know and I'll send you the information.
I did that last year. It
Will
was
you
awesome.
say that date one more time?
The Thanksgiving Heroes one, it's this Thursday. It's in 2 days. And the foundation's helping kind of coordinate that. Okay, PTA.
Nothing new.
Salt Lake Academy Board,
We have nothing.
Salt Lake County Parks and Rec,
I don't have anything there either.
Utah High School Activities Association. You always have something.
Oh, yeah, always. I sent all of you an email regarding the formal sanctioning of esports for the 25-26 school year. And so that will be happening in all of our high schools, hopefully. It's already a big program, and so to be sanctioned and supported by Utah high schools, I think that's a real plus for our kids. The other thing, as part of our meeting last Thursday, was it Thursday? Last week, I attended a luncheon to honor Spirit of the Sport recipients, Wall of Honor recipients, and other honorees. We do that every year in the spring. To honor the Spirit of the Sport recipients are students who have gone through trials in their lives and have succeeded in a lot of different ways. And so it's a really, really nice luncheon that we were able to attend, so.
Question on that first one. I'm just wondering how the rest of the board feels about esports in school. That's video games, right? Is that correct?
Competitive.
In order to be good at a video game, you've got to play it a lot. In order to be competitive, I've got 2 boys still at home, and I'll admit they spend a lot of time playing video games, and they've gotten pretty good. But as a parent, I don't know that I want to encourage more time playing video games. And so I'm questioning whether or not that's something that in the school environment, in the education environment, that we want to promote. Any other thoughts on that?
Can I speak to that? I think that's a fair concern,
Yes.
of course. That makes sense. We are bringing this to the board, as we did with boys volleyball most recently and lacrosse previous to that. So we'll be bringing it to the board to formally make a decision about that. So it's been decided at the state level, and then as a board, you have the opportunity to decide whether to offer it as a competitive sanctioned sport. Those who are in the esports world would say that if students are playing video games anyway, and that's where they can connect to each other and to school, it's not necessarily more video game playing, but it's video game playing that now involves being a part of a group in the same space at the same time, and it reaches students who otherwise would not necessarily be involved. So that's what they would say in response, I think, but that's not, it's a concern. I have to make screen time rules and then specific no gaming rules, even if you do have a screen in your hand, because the games are super engaging, and my son is better at some of them than I'd like him to be, of course. So
The video game industry, this is a statistic I recently heard, so I'm not vouching for it, but I did hear that the video gaming industry is a bigger financial industry than both Hollywood, movies and music combined. There's a lot of money behind this. And so that concerns me, because wherever there's a lot of money, there's a lot of influence. And so when I hear something like the people who are in favor of video games would say this, obviously the people that stand to gain the most financially from it are the video game creators.
yeah.
That's a little bit of a concern as well.
The clarification would be people in the esports world, not the video game creators, but the advisors and the people who, but you make a fair point. It's very influential, so let's be thoughtful about, in the same way that they're thoughtful about the games that students do play. So when we bring that, we'll speak to the concerns that you've raised and give some background information on that, so that you can make a decision that includes information related to what you just brought up. So
I would be interested in knowing college opportunities also, and job skills, because as the information I read, as I've looked into instructional technology and learning sciences and stuff, the skills that they develop doing this are very valuable in the world that we're moving into. And so the question is, they're going to play video games no matter what. Can this sport harness the skills to move them in a direction that they can make money off this and change society with this? Without that intervention on our behalf, they'll just play video games. But this is a lot bigger than playing video games. This is developing skills that will make them successful and change the world. That's how I see it, and I'd love to have any information you can find on that.
Yeah, this is good. I agree. It'd be helpful to have some of this information when we have to make the decision.
yeah, we'll bring a full presentation to you. That'll be in a few months, because I don't think is it 25, 26? Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Okay, Utah School Boards Association, our next meeting is in a couple of weeks, and we will be discussing the JLC process and reviewing our bylaws and considering potential changes for how we make decisions and advocate with the legislature in the future. So those of you that have come to JLC meetings and have thoughts on what could change in the future, please let me know. Welcome that feedback. And then I just wanted to bring up, I went to a committee, it's called Transit Fresh Look, and it's with community leaders from this end of the valley, but then also Utah County, like Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, Bluffdale, South Jordan, West Jordan, actually not West Jordan, Riverton, Harriman, to take a really good look at public transit. And I was invited as someone, president of the school board in that role, to come add the school board perspective to that too, because it affects a lot of our employees. I mean, we are the largest employer in this corner of the valley. And so having good public transit options would be beneficial to our employees and also to our students heading out to their after school jobs. And so I was grateful to be invited to that. But it's a task force that's working with UTA and our other people involved in public transit to say kind of what our needs are. And we'll meet just a couple of times and they'll put together a new plan for public transit for this end of the valley. We really are a whole. If you look at the map, there's bus lines all over the place until you get to South Jordan, Riverton, Bluffdale, Harriman, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no bus stops. There's just nothing. So, there are a couple of, front runner and a couple track stops, but it really is a whole out here. So anyway, that was a very good meeting.
That does affect our kids a lot because in many communities, they use mass transit to get to schools of other choice, something else in the district. And I know many people point out, and even my own kids, I know we have like the UTA taxi cab or something that can come in our area, but they don't have reliable transportation to, be a student at Riverton if you live in Harriman or vice versa. So.
Okay, any other things from committees that people are on? Okay, Dr. Godfrey, do you have anything superintendent report wise?
Nothing else.
Okay.
I would like to point out that Chad has completed D8.
With his finger. He's using his finger, not a mouse.
Amazing.
That is a skill set right there. Talk about esports. Chad wins.
I agree.
And he left my house on.
Okay, so this is D7.
Currently D7, yes.
I love it. Let's do it.
Thoughts?
Can we make the no.
Well, I do have some concerns about the picture. It does kind of cut the student's head off a little bit. I don't know if we can, that's my only concern at this stage is if we might look through our photos and see if we can find it. We have the original picture that was,
And
we can put this in its place potentially. This one right here.
That's the original photo.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it was taken.
So I don't know if that works a little bit better as a rough, something in that vein instead of, like I said, I'm just, a little bit concerned about that.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I prefer that to having her.
Yes, okay.
So is everyone okay with D7? And if you want to make little tweaks to make it look more visually appealing, where you're all okay with that, we'll leave it to the pros. Okay, everyone okay with this?
Yes.
Nikki, can you see the latest version?
Yes. I like this second picture better.
Okay.
It's Copper Hills, that's why.
Oh,
Is it?
I didn't even notice that. I just like the color balance. I didn't like the color of her hair with the color of the pillars.
I liked that.
Okay, we will, and then everyone's good with
Absolutely.
different variations of this also as a document. And then we'll take this and the strategic plan document that we did last time we wanted to settle on this, and then we'll take the design elements from this and apply it to the strategic plan. And we'll leave that up to our communications team to do that too. And we'll vote on it on the 23rd. Okay, everyone good with that? Thank you. Nice work. Well done. Thank you.
Smile, Chad.
Can we see it when it's done before the next board meeting?
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Perfect. I know how we don't love voting on things that feel really new.
Yeah, that's great. Once you get the finalized version, send it out to us and we'll hope it stays the finalized version.
He is me.
Okay, can I get a motion to go into closed session? That is the end of our agenda tonight. Thank you to all of those who joined us in person and online.
Thank you, Doug.
Don't
Don't jinx us.
jinx us. That's the word I wanted.
All right, can I get a motion to go into closed
I
session?
always say that and then, oh, this is gonna be a short
I move we
meeting.
go into closed session to discuss character and competence of individuals, property, negotiations, potential litigation, and security.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barnett, second by Ms. Richards to go into closed session. Those in favor, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Richards? In favor of going into closed session?
Oh, yes.
Ms. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Dunford?
Yes.
Ms. George?
Yes.
And I am a yes, so we will now go into closed session. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.